Greetings, my name is Eric Thyberg. I'm an operations specialist here at VictorOps.
And my name's Tom Hart. I'm the Vice President of Operations at VictorOps.
I'm Nick Green. I'm a muscle in the operations team.
And this is Dane. He's our intern, and he's watching us do our thing today.
So we are coming to you live from Boulder, Colorado. You can see the mountains in the background there. This is the VictorOps Mountain Base Camp. Every Tuesday at 2 Mountain, the ops team gets together and goes through a basic overview of the VictorOps platform. So that's the intent of today's meeting. So with that said, we're going to start a screen share, so bear with us.
All right, what you should be seeing right now is the web UI of the VictorOps platform. It's worth noting off the bat here that this same experience that you see here in our web UI is available both in our Android and iOS clients. The web UI is obviously just much easier for us to go ahead and demonstrate for you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and start out here on the left side. This is what we call the people pane. These are going to be all the members of our organization here at VictorOps. The top 3 people here listed all have oak leaves next to their name, and that is used to denote that they are currently on call. The team that they are currently on call for is listed in the orange. So we have Jason actually on call for 2 different teams right now. If you jump down below those 3 people, there's 2 people here with a solid green dot next to their name and 1 with kind of a half green dot next to his name. We think that's important because this being a collaborative platform, we want people to know who is checked in, logged in, and currently browsing through the app itself. And that's what that green dot is used to show. That green dot will decay over about 3 hours until it kind of becomes this translucent green. So Joseph is maybe about an hour and a half out of the app itself, whereas Lauren and John are actively engaged and paying attention to what's going on in the infrastructure. If we click on somebody's name here, it's going to show their email address. This is obviously a fake email address because this is our demo account, and their phone number. If you just tap on their phone number from the mobile app, you can actually just start a phone call right there. You can also hold sidebar conversation here as well that won't be recorded in the main timeline. Additionally, we all have things that we do outside of work. Our boss Tom here coaches his kids hockey games and baseball games and stuff like that. And so oftentimes what he'll do is just reach out to us with an app mention. One app will reach out to an individual, whereas 2 apps will mention a team. And he'll just say, hey, let's call in John here. It's going to show up in the timeline here, but if he was calling for, if you knew he's going to be doing practice or a game or something like that, he's going to be out of pocket, he can reach out to us that way, and we can jump in here and click take on call. And at that point, we effectively pass the pager and we assume all duties and responsibilities of being on call in that moment. And then once Tom is once again available, he can jump back in here and take on call back, and everybody's none the wiser.
So from here, we're going to move into the center part of the screen, which is we have no shame in admitting it's a ripoff in the look and feel of Twitter. So what we're trying to introduce in the main timeline, which again is the center of the screen, is a single pane of glass where your entire organization can see exactly what's going on with your infrastructure. So with the people pane, you can see exactly who's working on a particular incident or who's available to work on a particular incident. And then in the main primary timeline, what you see is obviously what's actually flowing in from your infrastructure. So we'll get into integrations here in a bit, but obviously you'll have your monitoring solutions plugged into the VictorOps platform, and that will subsequently send in any of the incidents associated to, for example, Nagios, New Relic, etc. Those will flow into your main timeline. So everybody in the organization has full situational awareness of what's going on within your infrastructure. Obviously, we use VictorOps here at VictorOps to support our own infrastructure. We do all of our deploys through the VictorOps instance. We also have our customer service support tickets. So from front to back end, we have full awareness throughout the organization of what's going on. So for example, we did a deploy, we would see a timestamp in the timeline. And then if we subsequently see 15 tickets arrive from our trouble ticketing system, there's probably some sort of a correlation there. So everybody in the organization can see that, and take collaborative action to resolve that incident as quickly as possible. So that's a look at the primary timeline. Nate has triggered a couple of incidents which he's going to use to talk about the right-hand side of the screen, which is our incident pane.
So I'm going to fire off a sample incident. The rest of them are running through a demo and will automatically resolve themselves. But as you see, the incident is going to first show up in the main timeline here. It's going to say who it's contacting. It will also queue up here on the right. These are all the current outstanding incidents over here on the right pane. You can filter that down by my incidents and my team's incidents. You can also, from the right side, acknowledge and reroute, the two main options here. Acknowledging the incident will stop all paging, and it will say who is taking responsibility for that incident in particular. Just did that here. You can see it's act by VO admin. Both in the triggered and in the acknowledged state, you have the option to reroute. What rerouting allows you to do is, let's say an incident comes in that's outside of your technical acumen, you can forward that off to another team, and without having to look up who's on call, find out their phone number, and get in touch with them, it's just a one-touch way to begin notifying that on-call member of that team. Again, this is all going to show up in the main timeline. It's also going to show up in the incident timeline. So clicking in on an incident, you are presented with the full payload of that incident. In addition, you also have a timeline specific to just the actions related to this entity. By typing in this main timeline here, or the incident timeline, you can do the same and at mentions that you can from the main timeline, but it's automatically going to append the incident number so that when you are called in to help, you know what you're being called in to help with. Past that, the last feature we are going to touch on before we move on to some of the scheduling and reports, we also have maintenance mode. Entering maintenance mode will cease paging for all incidents. This is great if you have a planned outage or you know something is going to happen, or you're just in the middle of a firefight and you don't need to be told again that there's a problem. Entering maintenance mode, you will not lose any information. As you see, alerts will still be coming through, but they will not send out any pages. Exiting maintenance mode, any outstanding incidents still queued up there on the right will resume paging, as you see, again, trying to contact the individuals for these outstanding incidents.
One last thing that I neglected to touch on is the timeline filtering. So as you can see, I just highlighted the capability to filter your timeline. So in Nate's example, if you're in kind of a busy session, if you will, and stuff's really flowing into the timeline at a high rate of speed, you can go in here and quiet things down in terms of the view and just sort through in the timeline to things that you want to concentrate on. So that's another feature that's available in the main UI. So before we move on to the web UI here, or into the scheduling, once you get your schedules and integrations set up, which we're going to be talking about next, this is really where you spend 99% of your time interfacing with the VictorOps platform. This same look and feel translates over to the iOS and Android device. It's just a lot easier for us to go through the administrative features that are only available in the web UI. So that said, I'm going to go into the settings tab, and we're going to go into our scheduling and calendaring options. At a high level, we've taken a lot of time to add full flexibility and capability in terms of schedules. Most of our clients run a standard, one individual is on call for a DevOps team for a 7-day period of time, 24/7. But if you're a large organization with a more complex follow the sun type of rotation, we have that capability as well. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Nate on just some basics on how to set up your team's escalation policy.
So as you can see in that previous screen, I was kind of going through and showing you the high-level overview of how the schedule is set up for that initial step, that's generally a rotation. Digging into an escalation policy, you can see that we can run through a series of different steps that are time-based. We go anywhere from a minute to 120 minutes. And the options are to, generally the first step is going to be notify the on-duty user in a rotation. The rotation is defined at the bottom of the screen here. This is a more complex follow the sun rotation that goes for 4 different shifts with teams all over the world. But again, it's very easy to set up a simple 24/7 rotation as well. other option would be to notify an individual user. You could also notify the next and previous user in a rotation. Execute the policy for a team. So after a certain amount of time, if you need to escalate to a tier 1 or tier 2 support, you can do that programmatically. You can also execute a webhook or send an email. These are both great options for anyone that would be outside of your organization. Someone, maybe a manager and an executive level type person who you wouldn't want to actually have access to the VictorOps platform, acknowledging or doing anything like that, but they would want to know if after a certain amount of time things aren't getting taken care of, so they can get in touch with the right people. The webhook also actually has a significant amount of information in the payload, so that you would potentially be able to take action on something on your end, or just send it off to a different system need be.
So from here, we'll jump into the users. This is where individual users would set up their personal paging policy. So what your preference is in terms of how you want to be alerted of an incident. Go ahead, sorry, Nick.
Yeah, as you see here, I have a number of steps. It's very similar to the escalation policy in that we're going to continue to go through the steps you've outlined in your own personal paging policy until that incident gets acknowledged. The options for this are to send a push notification, send an email, send an SMS, or make a phone call.
And then on your phone, on your iOS or Android device, you have the option to set custom notification sounds. So from VictorOps. So for example, you could set up a distinct sounding siren or something like that. So you clearly identify the VictorOps alert when it arrives. From here, we've jumped into the integrations tab, and you can see on the right-hand side of the screen a list of the current monitoring solutions that we have formal integrations with. There's also easy access to the knowledge base articles, as you can see in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We've taken a lot of time to give detailed technical information on how to set up the plumbing for the various integrations that we have available. We're also always available to assist you in getting the integration set up. Similar to the on-call schedule, most of the time, once you get your monitoring solutions integrated into the VictorOps platform, you really don't have to go back and revisit them. They're set up and ready to go.
I just want to touch real quick on our generic REST endpoint and email endpoint integration options. If you don't see an integration here, first check the knowledge base. There could be additional integrations there that have not made it into the UI yet. But if your system is able to send out a webhook and you can define the JSON payload of that webhook, the REST endpoint is going to be the best options 9 times out of 10. What we have here is a URL that contains a API key specific to your organization, and then a routing key that decides where the alert will go to based on the different teams. The routing key is defined at the bottom. As you see, database will go to database. VictorOps will go to the follow the sun rotation that we looked at earlier. Past that, if you were unable to define the payload or just unable to send a webhook at all, the email endpoint is always the quick and easy way to go about it. It again comes with an API key specific to your organization and a routing key that decides where the alert, which team the alert will go to. And what we do here is we parse the subject line of that email. We look for key terms like critical, acknowledged, resolved, and take action on that based once it gets into our system. If the email is not parsable, you have the option to toggle between making all alerts that are not parsable info alerts or critical alerts, which will automatically begin the paging policies.
From here, we'll jump into our reporting. The titles of these reports should speak to themselves. Right now, it's at an organizational level. We are looking at introducing more granularity in terms of allowing you key performance indicators down to the team and individual level. For now, what you see is data at the organization level. One of the reports that we recently introduced is on the far right, is our incident frequency report. This allows you a quick and easy glance into your infrastructure to see which entities are making the most noise. That can either allow you to fine-tune your monitoring solutions so you're not getting woken up in the middle of the night for those particular entities, or it identifies the fact that you might have a hardware or software problem in your infrastructure. We'll concentrate today primarily on our retrospective or post-mortem report, which we found to be particularly useful. Having been on call since Nate was 9, I've had to conduct a fair amount of post-mortem reports to support service level agreements, and it can normally be a very challenging and time-consuming experience when you're having to pull data from various silos of information. If you consolidate all your monitoring solutions all the way to your ticketing system into the VictorOps platform, it'll allow you a super efficient means by which to create a retrospective or post-mortem report in support of service level agreements or in support of your post-mortem culture within your organization. So Nate's ginned up a quick demonstration here of a mock-up report. As you can see, you can provide a quick write-up. You can annotate notes into the report to add more detail of when things went wrong, etc. Save those, and then roll this up and save it in your VictorOps instance, or you can create it as a PDF to send out internally or externally. So it's a pretty handy, slick feature, one that our customers seem to really resonate with. So with that said, we're going to stop screen sharing here, and that is the conclusion of the demo thus far. We don't do a question and answer session. It just seems to be a little bit cumbersome on this type of forum. So if you do have specific questions for the VictorOps team, please contact us at support@victorops.com. You can set up a free trial by going to the VictorOps website. So it's a 14-day free trial. You have full access to the support organization during that time. There's obviously no charge for support, and we're always available to assist. We love talking to our customers. So with that said, we're going to conclude with Eric in a scuba mask, or Nate, or Eric. So thanks very much for your time. And again, if you have any questions, please contact support@victorops.com. Thanks for your time.
Bye.